If you're a guy like Takumi, succumbing to his age while also facing society's ill treatment of you, you probably think that you're about to kick the bucket, right? Wrong, because Takumi finds himself reincarnated on another planet, where he forges SSS-rank weapons to one-tap the higher-level demons, while at the same time aspiring to become the world's greatest craftsman. Are you curious to see how this regular guy casually journeys to wipe the floor with the Demon Lord? Let's find out by joining him on his epic adventure. Lighting his cigarette, Takumi Fujimura thinks that his 35 years of painstaking effort has turned into a remarkably underwhelming journey, especially when it's about to end. The skills of any ordinary craftsperson allowed for many revolutionary products to take birth, products that achieve impossible things. Such products were all made possible thanks to the incredible Japanese manufacturing technique. Those who practice such skills are called the artisans of the world. At the Fujimura Manufacturing Company, Takumi is a 70-year-old man who is especially annoyed with a client who's offering him a handful of money for a difficult deadline. The prospect thinks that he can always approach his alternatives and attacks Takumi's character as a person. The man goes on to state that skills alone aren't enough to operate in this era, mocking Takumi's age and his talents and taking him as a pawn of big companies. Takumi tugs his shirt, intently stating that workers of his caliber put everything into their work. Takumi tells him to get out of his sight as he's already worked himself to the bone. The man continues to treat Takumi in a condescending manner, claiming that he would never get away with this incident scot-free as he will report this so-called malicious incident to his superiors. Takumi is devastated and thinks that now he's basically ruined his financial situation. He doesn't know what he will do now, especially with his old age. Man, that client is just one of those douchebags. Takumi looks at his trembling hand and realizes that he doesn't know how to do anything other than his one true art. He's a single man with no family of any kind. Takumi believes that even though a lot happened in his life, from bitter memories to warm times, the day of his independence eventually came when he started working on his own. Before much could happen, he was already 70 years of age. Takumi thinks that he's successfully fulfilled his life, but he has a single regret, which is that he couldn't make something of the world. Suddenly, Takumi faces a sudden chest palpitation as he flops to the ground. As he is exhausting his life, the man remembers how he neglected his health because of the work, and regrets that he didn't have more time to flourish and make the best of life. Takumi wakes up to a completely different view from his shop in a rather youthful state. He's surprised to find that he still has his workshop and wonders what's even going on. He knew that he just passed out and suddenly his clothes don't even fit him anymore. Takumi witnesses a girl named Frau von Freya, who is a professional healer and is trying to practice her blade, when she ends up disconnecting her prosthetic hand. Takumi comes to ask her about the location, startling the young girl with his old-fashioned language. Freya is surprised by his words as he takes her into the workshop. Takumi thinks that this is all a dream, as turning into a kid on a trip to Europe, which is what he thinks of the castle, is something totally unbelievable. Hahaha, he actually believes that this is Europe. Frau asks if he's alright as he seems to have a depressed look on his face. Takumi states that it's not a problem and helps fix Frau's arm, making it attach fully without breaking off. Frau is positively surprised by his abilities and thinks that he's just like the dwarves of legend. Takumi is put off guard by the compliment, but Frau tells him that the dwarves are a fabled race that excels at smithing. They're considered apostles of God and said to have bestowed legendary arms to renowned heroes. Takumi is confused by her language, as Frau continues to state that there are many magical weapons said to have sealed the Demon King. There is a magic sword which unleashes lightning and many other weapons capable of astronomical capabilities. Takumi is put off guard by a mention of magic and the Demon King, yet Frau tells him that the Demon King's army is newly revived and currently active. Oof, my guy is just a boomer in this world. Frau shares her dream to become a splendid hero with such weapons in hand, except she's just a powerless healer at the end who was recently fired from her party, and now became a solo adventurer. She's trying to learn the way of the sword and greatly failing at that. Takumi is actually tripped out by her conversation as he doesn't understand a thing about this world. He thinks that he's stumbled into someone else's dream and smacks the living daylights out of his face in the hopes of waking up. Takumi is stunned when he feels the stinging pain from the swollen skin, while Frau quickly uses her healing magic to recover his face. Dude should enter one of those slapping competitions, damn. She is glad to have healed him successfully, as healing is her only area of expertise. Frau shares how she is glad to have her magical staff, as it is her family's magical treasure, a weapon utilizing a B-class magic stone called the Lantern Crystal, which is pretty rare for even the country's standards. Frau tries to gain Takumi's attention, who is losing his mind trying to comprehend reality. Takumi realizes that this isn't some vague feeling. He comes to a rather disappointing realization of having ended up in another world. Takumi now feels the sheer weight of what Frau shared about the Demon King, and thinks that he's not up for such a great adventure. Takumi wonders how he's going to make a living and believes that he could make weapons of his own for that. He requests Frau to share her staff with him for an inspection of 2 to 3 months. However, Frau simply can't trust something so important to her to an unknown guy. Takumi makes a stupidly sad face to gain the girl's sympathy, and finally gets his hand on the staff. Frau wonders if he wants anything else from her. Takumi reflects on how he can read the letters and speak the language of the world, while Frau tells him that she'll be heading back to town for a bit. Before leaving, she forbids him from ever going near the northern mountains at night, as there are reported sightings of a demon called Eyeless. When Takumi asks her for more info, she tells him that they're the demon of the night that destroyed countless villages long ago. It's a bat-like monster with a subjugation rank of BBB class. It is said to have once been slain by the Kingdom Knights several years ago, except there have been reports of the creature's frequent encounters as of late. Takumi doesn't take the matter seriously and shrugs it off. Old Man seriously ignored a sleep paralysis demon. We're explained how this is the fantasy world of Avlana, where the complimentary attention goes to the minerals unique to this planet, the realm of magic stones. Different energies like electricity, heat, and light could all be produced by coursing mana and producing effects. They were like natural batteries in some regard and the key trigger for channeling all of magic, with their usage ranging from everyday essentials to the art of battles. Takumi thinks that he should play around with the stones and observe their traits to understand them better, as he's pretty perplexed by them. He wants to crack the mineral for an avid inspection and wonders what it is. Takumi confirms the existence of a high-purity crystal core within the stone thanks to his tinkering. The core only consists of 20% of the stone's actual volume, with the rest of the parts acting as power limiters to suppress its original power. This also means that the magic of this planet was basically a nerf leakage reduced to only 1/10 of its actual power. Oof. He's about to release the limiters on these bad boys. Takumi is excited at his new challenge and proceeds to do some metalworking. The process itself is to be divided into 4 stages. First, he needs to prepare the materials and the tools, then cut the material and produce its shape, and finally it requires drilling and thread cutting to perfection. Takumi reflects how a craftsman needs to be considerably aware of even the slightest of changes to produce an outstanding outcome. Changes, for example, the temperature of the material. Craftsmen are capable of recognizing such minute changes and respond to them swiftly with instant corrections, allowing them to maintain the quality and accuracy of their processing to surpass that of even automatic machines. Takumi finds himself in a weary state as he spends a total of 3 continuous days wrapping up his product. Takumi feels that his body is entirely different as he doesn't get tired as much. His head, however, is actually taking the most amount of exhaustion, as he's unaware of his many abilities. Takumi decides to head outside for some fresh air, and recalls how Frau is just a powerless healer, who's facing a rough life. He also thinks that because of her prosthetic arm, she'll find it incredibly difficult to progress, no matter the amount of training. He doesn't want to be rude to her and thinks that he should just keep on crafting. Takumi suddenly spots a gleam of a beautiful core, and with that, the discovery, extraction, and processing of such cores became this planet's first ever unique craft. Frau returns to retrieve her staff and finds Takumi completely snoozed out. Takumi wakes up and decides to whip her some coffee, which she obviously knows nothing about. Haha, coffee or tea? Let's settle the debate in the comments below. Takumi shows her a weapon, specifically a gun, that he made. Frau wonders where her staff is, and Takumi tells her that it's sitting right in front of her. Frau has an instant meltdown, realizing what this man has done to her secret family treasure, while Takumi thinks that he's achieved the perfect form for the weapon by maximizing attack performance to the highest level. He's created the world's first magic gun with a barrel and bullet system made from his core metals. That thing looks OP as heck. Frau still doesn't find the outcome pleasing, and wants Takumi to return her staff to its original state. Takumi tells her that it's basically impossible now and shows the poor girl something completely shocking. He reveals his stash of magic stones, surprising Frau as they're all high quality and real. Takumi tells her that he just went outside and spotted some shiny objects on the side of the rocks. What he doesn't know is that he was subconsciously using detection magic to spot the cores in a precise manner. Takumi thinks that it has to be an effect of his coming here, as his eyes have been specifically enhanced to an extreme level. Frau turns to look at him only to reveal that no person on the entire planet possesses a pair of such godly eyes. And not only that, they also don't have anything resembling his crafting techniques. She's intimidated by Takumi's identity as a person and wonders who he is. Suddenly, they hear a loud boom. Takumi doesn't know where it came from, while Frau turns to look behind. She spots the gaping, horrifying demon thirsty for blood. Frau's composure drops to hell as this is the same eyeless beast, except it's impossible for it to be active in the middle of the day. She realizes that the beast was drawn to the aura of the magic stones as it roars right ahead. Frau tells Takumi that they should be running right now, but he's too busy taking things lightly and doesn't fear the very demon that brought ruin to an entire region. Me personally, I'd be eating myself out of that place, yikes. Takumi thinks that the beast is light work and hands the girl her special weapon, even though Frau wants to run. Takumi tells her that she should deal with the monster right away, imploring her to use the weapon at once. The eyeless bat descends in a terrifying manner and is about to devour them, but Takumi easily helps her aim her weapon right at the target, advising her to concentrate mana as she pulls the trigger. Frau has lost all morale and thinks that she's just a stupid healer who is meant to play backline support. Her fear overwhelms her as she fails to pull the trigger. Takumi decides to get close to the monster in order to give Frau a reason to fight. Takumi reveals to the girl that he trusts in the very craft that he's mastered for more than half a century. The eyeless monster jumps forth to attack while Frau frantically panics as she thinks this small cylinder is incapable of beating a giant beast. The moment of truth arrives the second she pulls the trigger, obliterating the monster in a singular strike, leaving its incinerated body on the ground. Frau doesn't even know what happened, while Takumi thinks that it's all according to his expectations. He tells her that this thing is quite the powerful magical weapon, as he basically concentrated all of the wasted energy of her wand into a singular point, unleashing a devastating weapon. Frau is in utter disbelief of this man's menacing abilities, while Takumi tells her that he's actually been killing these monsters all by himself for the past 3 months. In fact, he's done target practice with the weapon using the monsters as test subjects. Frau is in sheer terror with his every word. Takumi declares that he's going to confidently make her the strongest superhero in the world, and then prove that his crafting skills are the finest on the face of the planet. Takumi believes that the Demon King is actually their prize catch in this mission and nothing more than a tool to achieve their objectives. He thinks that it's a good deal that she gets to become the hero while he becomes the greatest craftsman to have ever been known. Frau has no idea what he's even talking about, as his unrealistic expectations are too much for her to comprehend. Bro doesn't even think of the Demon King as an obstacle. Takumi gives her a hand while Frau contemplates if someone as weak as her is even capable of pulling off something so great. Takumi tells her that all she should be anticipating is to become a hero, as this is the turning point of her life. Frau reflects on how this man basically treats the Demon King like his prey, and thinks that the miraculous craftsman might just be her key to salvation. She takes his hand, agreeing to the deal, and tells Takumi that she's going to follow him to the very end. With that, Takumi and Frau join forces as they prepare to give the world a shock that they will never forget. We're shown a glimpse into Frau's past, as she was once part of a B-ranked party that was trying to hunt a high-level beast. However, Frau prioritized her attention on saving an injured child and thought that he might die otherwise. Her party leader took great offense to her acts and thought of her as nothing more than trash for wasting her magic on a villager. Because of Frau's ignorance of her surroundings, she was directly hit by the Chimera Beast's fireball attack, ending up in a wretched state. Her belligerent party members called her worthless and fired her from the team, stating that it was her fault for getting caught up in the incident and letting their prey slip away. Not only that, but they also took away her savings as punishment for their failed hunt and erased her personal rank, reducing Frau back to the lowest F rank. Frau was left for rot in her state and woke up crying. By this point, Takumi has introduced himself as someone who came from another world. Frau looks at his megaphone device while he explains that it's just a device that amplifies one's voice. Takumi explains the science behind the tool as it converts electrical signals into physical vibrations. He calls it the Fujimura speaker in this world. Old man really be geeking out with these names. Takumi insists she gives it a shot by doing the same thing as last time. Frau ends up speaking so loudly that her ears ring, and she realizes that it is like lightning itself struck down. Takumi thinks that his output adjustment was a success and finds the magic stones to be pretty broken in terms of what they can do. Frau takes the conversation to a different turn as she's feeling her fleeting self-worth and asks Takumi why he picked he to defeat the Demon King. She doesn't know why he doesn't decide to become a hero himself. Takumi tells her that he's simply not interested in being a hero, as being a hero is not his area of expertise. He also believes that she's the right person to become the hero, one that has faced a lot of hardship thus far. Takumi thinks that a craftsman's place is behind the scenes, and at the end of the day, what matters most is that he gets the job and makes people happy with his products. Takumi tells her that they should get the move on by heading into town. Frau is surprised by his request and decides to take him to the place. She brings him to the royal capital of Rirasso, which is called Cadornia. Cadornia is home to different people and views, impressing the likes of Takumi, who finds the world marvelous for what it is. Frau begs Takumi not to stand out too much as he looks weird enough, but he tells her that it's odd for her to be covering herself on a sunny day. Frau nervously shares how it's done to cover her burnt face, while Takumi tells her that he was drawn to her burns the first time they met. Takumi wonders if Rirasso is always brimming with festivities, but Frau informs how it's only a small kingdom, and even though they call it a royal capital, it's just a calm, provincial city. Until recently, it was breached by a second new dungeon. Takumi asks about this dungeon, imploring Frau to explain that the labyrinth from 100 years ago, known as the cavern path called Imbo, appeared. Dungeons are underground layers said to have existed since the creation of the world itself, with their nature, terrain, and levels varying depending on the country. They were known to be reaching the depth of 600 floors, with difficulty increasing the further one's descension. However, all dungeons had one thing in common, which was the risk of the return of monsters and treasures all around. The promise of a great adventure birthed many heroes in search of treasures and their fascination. And as a result, dungeons became a vital aspect of logistics and trade, leading to the creation of towns and cities as a whole. Frau tells him that only tomorrow will the right to be the first to challenge this new dungeon in the selection tourney be held. All treasure in the dungeon will belong to the one who becomes the first to discover it, as face quite literally means to make the first contact with the chaotic unknown. The talks of there being enough riches in the dungeon are also running at a high, which Frau finds amazing. Takumi takes her information and tells her that they should seize the dungeon for themselves. His declaration shocks Frau, who's just incapable of processing his words. She thinks that it's impossible, as every adventurer from all over the country, including those from neighboring countries, will be gathering in the dungeon. The selection tourney also allows parties with a maximum of 5 members, and there are only 2 of them, with their competition being only the A-class parties. One might think that this may pose quite a bit of trouble, but Takumi takes it lightly as he tells her that their special gun is on their side. Frau counters that she would be branded a criminal for committing mass murder in an event such as that. Their conversation is overheard, as other people begin fixating their attention on her. One of them identifies the girl, and this sends chills down her spine. The people make fun of Frau for being a former member of the Shiden clan, and now she is considered a betrayer who abandoned her comrades and fled in the midst of battle. The people all around her begin shunning her for being a worthless scum, but Takumi only begins to laugh uncontrollably, finding the matter amusing. Takumi gets sour revenge when the people start making fun of his stupid appearance and take her for a goblin subspecies. Takumi is triggered to receive such an offensive remark and nearly wants to try the rapid fire feature of his gun, but Frau begs him to hold himself back. Bro is about to annihilate them cause they're roasting his height, haha. Frau is especially stunned when she hears the voice of the man who was once her party leader, Valk Donner, calling her useless yet again in this encounter, while the people become in awe of the legendary A-ranked adventurer's appearance. Valk strikes her down and notes how she's found a new party comprising of Takumi. Valk thinks that the kid is rather disappointing and straight up tells Frau, the betrayer, that she's going to have a really hard time forming a new party because of the nasty rumors he spread about her. Valk wants her to remember this harsh treatment and considers her a piece of trash in the end. He bids her farewell and takes his insults to another level by mocking Frau's mother. Evil Levy-looking mofo really brought out the your mom insult. As Valk is leaving, Takumi openly calls Valk a stinking brat with a loudmouth. The people are left in disbelief by his words, as Takumi confidently states that he doesn't care about the ranking nonsense, and advises Valk not to judge other people by their appearances. Valk's own party members are shocked by Takumi's words, and they are quick to form an ill impression of him. Valk counters that this is what he expects from a traitor's companion and wonders if Takumi came for the selection tourney as well. Takumi confirms that he has, including Frau herself. Valk tells him that he is best pleased to look forward to their encounter and reminds him to be wary of some interesting accidents. Takumi shoots him back with his own warning, going head-to-head in trash talk with the famous dual swordsman. Frau is just decimated by Takumi's words and comes to the event of the selection tourney, where many parties have arrived to fight for the dungeon. Takumi notes the existence of Valk and the Shiden clan, while the rest of the people shun the brat who even dared to take a fight with their beloved Valk. And finally, the face selection tourney begins. We're shown a conversation between Frau and Takumi as he wonders what would be the quickest way to defeat the Demon King. Frau is intimidated by his question, but he just wants to make his own preparations. The girl tells him that one would have to become an SS-rank adventurer in order to enter the Demon King's realm. Frau also informs him of the status of SS rank, which is said to be the hope of humanity. Currently, it rests on 7 people in the entire world known as the Soluan faction, who are adventurers allowed to freely reign in Azuma, the demonic frontline. Frau notes how they're the closest existences to being called the heroes. Back to the present, the announcer commences the journey and requests that interested parties should step into the arena. Obviously, Frau is downright intimidated as she can't even handle a stare from another high-ranking member. All eyes are on her and Takumi as they have become notorious for their encounter with the Shiden clan members. Frau quickly gives in to their words and bumps into a giant man with a glorious armored suit. Frau is a nervous wreck and apologizes continuously, while the man questions why 2 children are even entering such a dangerous arena. Takumi gets infuriated by the constant remarks about his appearance. He calls the man a mega geezer, only to state that he and Frau will soon become the ones who put the Demon King out of commission. His words are straight out of fantasy land for some people to even accept, as they wonder if he's lost his mind. Takumi is called a pest and has various other names, but he stands firm on what he says in front of the warrior. The man claims that Takumi is a fine pair of eyes and also states that Takumi is clearly not just any typical warrior. Gandalf apologizes to Takumi in kind and explains how he's the leader of a B-class party with his 2 swordsmen, Jin and Kin. He actually treats the 2 of them with sheer respect, addressing Takumi as master and also urging them to have a full-blown fight in the arena. On top of the structure, a guard wonders if he should have been placed somewhere in light of such an important tournament. He reflects on how the Shiden party is the most popular pick right now, and wonders if he can still make it in time to place the bet. My guy just wants a piece of that money bag, haha. Suddenly, he looks to find a few figures emerging from far away. The guard becomes alert when he realizes that it's a horde of monsters headed right in their path. He informs the people that a swarm of monsters has appeared and is headed right their way. Takumi wonders what the fuss is all about, while Frau tells him that it's probably related to the mast, which is a phenomenon that occurs when a new dungeon is formed as it stimulates the monsters, and rarely they swarm together to attack. The knights take formation as they're to protect the royal capital. This is in fact the safest outcome to many, as there are many adventurers gathered to oppose the monsters. However, the guard frantically reports that something is terribly wrong as he counted over 1,000 of such beasts by just sight. And while they are mostly goblins, there also consists a great number of ogres within their ranks who will reach the area in 30 minutes. The people are shocked to learn that 1,000 monsters are headed this way, except Valk welcomes the opportunity and proposes that whoever strikes down the most goblins would be best able to call themselves the winner of the selection tourney. Valk also thinks that the dungeons belong to the adventurers, which means that it's only fair game for them to get some flexibility with the rules. Valk furthers that their opponents are nothing if they are just goblins and ogres in the end, and believes that it will earn them a good reputation as country-saving heroes. Because of Valk's influence and impression on the public, the King's Knights forcibly accepts his approach and considers the selection tourney to be a new rank mission. Having obtained such permission, the adventurers are tasked with defending the castle and showing their potential in such a climactic battle. Frau doesn't know what's going on as the situation develops instantly. The goblins make their way as they begin to open the gates, finally letting the 2 factions clash against each other. The Shiden party members leap forward to massacre the tiny goblins as they begin their wrathful assault. Their brutal attacks take the numbers down by storm as they crush the goblins with their skills. Takumi is infuriated and wants Frau to man up, who is still afraid of entering such a battle. However, the moment she spots an injured man, she rushes in to help without fear. Frau heals the man in an instant with her concentrated magic, except she's attacked by a goblin from her blind spot. To her surprise, Gandalf defends Frau with his shield while his swordsmen rip them apart to pieces. Gandalf wonders if she's satisfied with her current ways, as she would inevitably lose her chance to score high in the selection tourney. Frau reluctantly states that she is a healer, who cannot ignore someone who collapses in front of her no matter who they are. She also thinks that her mother would have done the same and explains how she was a strong, kind woman who fought for the sake of others. She aspires to become a hero so that one day she can surpass her mother's dream. Takumi quietly observes this, while Frau states that being a hero is not just to be someone who defeats the Demon King, but rather becomes the very essence of hope for the weak. Mers von Freya, or Frau's mother, is a legendary woman whom Gandalf has heard of. She was the head of a prestigious noble family said to have been from the northern country, and the first Flame Soluan member known as the Flame Princess herself. Whoa, so her mother really be OP as heck. There is a rumor that she vanquished 15 years ago, during the Great War at the hands of the Demon Tribe. Gandalf did not expect that there would be any survivors of her family in a place such as this. He relieves Frau of her worries and insists that she should prioritize healing while he does his best to protect her. Frau is taken aback by her words, but Gandalf thinks that he's doing his duty to defend the ideals of the younger generation. Takumi thinks that Gandalf is exactly right and wants to grab a drink with him after this battle. Gandalf laughs in his face for taking this situation lightly and hopes to share the drink with him after the event. With every party, there is a clown, and Valk happens to be the one, as he enters their conversation to howl at Frau for being a pathetic healer. Even though he went through the effort of placing false rumors about her, Frau still continues to heal with no signs of quitting. Gandalf is interested in hearing such rumors and asks Valk to explain further. Valk decides to prove his point by cutting Gandalf apart with his blade, murderously stating that only the strong create stories for the weak to believe and that their pathetic party is incapable of dispelling such rumors. Tien and Jin want to end his life immediately, except they're taken down by Valk's party members, who cleverly make the A-rank mission a smokescreen to attack them openly. Valk spouts his belief that being weak is no different than being sinful, as the weak should stay put and keep their opinions shut, only to follow the words of the strong. He tries his best to take his place in the heart of Takumi, who only seems to be remembering his conversation with his patronizing client. Valk is about to end Takumi's life as he readies to slice his head. However, his weapon is caught before he is able to. Takumi tells Valk that he has experience meeting good-for-nothing bastards and is glad to be in another world. Takumi declares that he's going to kick this man's butt, giving him a beating fitting for a punk. Valk doesn't take him seriously, except he realizes that his attack was blocked just now. Valk wonders if it was a fluke, as a kid surely couldn't be capable of seeing through his slash attack, let alone block with one hand. Frau worries for Takumi, who's interested in playing around with his victims. She remembers when he first tested out his new weapon against a gigantic demon mantis and basically knocked the living daylights out of the beast with his tool. Imagine losing to a regular dude with a wrench. Takumi even named his new tool, which is basically a pipe wrench with enhanced capabilities. Frau is shocked at how he was able to deal a heavy blow using such a tool, while Takumi explains that his new weapon is a combination of material strengthening and physical enhancements, creating the world's first double-core product, a handy item that allows for a physical strength boost. Takumi also thinks that with his special eyes, his precision has only been getting sharper, and with enough focus, it feels like time itself is slowing down. Back to the present, Takumi asks Frau to assist the defeated and bloodied party members. Frau immediately runs off to heal them, while Takumi thinks that Valk is a creepy foe as he's locked in a 4-on-1 showdown. Valk tells Takumi that this is the end for him, as they're going to slaughter him. Nah, because I feel like they're about to get floored. However, their battle is disrupted when a man comes flying out of nowhere. Valk's brooding party member stops him, while they're told that a devastating monster has just stepped foot in their battle. Valk turns to look at the monster, whose rank is dauntingly estimated to be A-rank class. The Lord of the Black Forest and the ruler of the goblins, the Goblin Lord, has arrived. Sheesh, look at the size of that thing. Even though the adventurers did their best to fire attack the beast, their attacks were all meaningless in the end. Valk's party members wait for his instructions, as this monster is way beyond the normal prey. Valk is excited about the opportunity and thinks that this might be their ascension opportunity to S-rank. He wants to kill the Goblin Lord and thinks that it would make them win the selection tourney as well. He also thinks that they can use plenty of decoys as his party gets ready to initiate their attack. Valk tells Takumi that he's quite lucky as he's going to deal with him later. Bro doesn't know that he saved himself from getting washed in that arena. The Goblin Lord massacres the people all around with its brutal display of might and terror. Frau is doing her best to heal the injured, while Takumi reminds her that she has natural limits for mana, which is going to risk her exhaustion soon. Frau puts in extra effort and thinks that she's going to keep healing. Takumi, on the other hand, wants to protect her while Valk erupts in laughter just hearing how they're trying to aid others. He calls Frau trash and thinks that it's just going to give him more meat shields to play around with. Valk prepares to bring the fight to the Goblin Lord with his Shiden party, aiming to take everything through this victory. After a long battle of countless sacrifices, the Shiden clan finally exterminated the Goblin King. Valk thinks that they've secured their place in the selection tourney, while Takumi checks on Frau's health, who's been having the worst of it trying to heal people. Valk comes over to Frau and states that her healing helped them a lot, except sacrifices came to the fray as they lost Eltico as one of their party members. Valk continues to yap, except Frau heads over to heal Eltico with her magic gun and revives the man. Valk leaves the discussion, while Frau flops to the ground in her exhausted state. Because each and every one saw Valk and his party take down the Goblin Lord, they were quick to receive attention from the public, as they made their triumphant return. Now comes the announcement for the Rite of Faste, as the king states that such a right would be given to those who promised this service during the repulsion battle. The king's knight begins to announce the name, while Valk is absolutely certain that it should be his party that qualifies for the dungeon. Valk is too busy living in his own head when the king's knight shocks everyone by calling Frau von Freya's name in public. Valk feels utter dismay, and cataclysmically descends into madness as his efforts to take the behemoth are all disregarded. Bro be mouthing every swear word in the Urban Dictionary, hahaha. Obviously, his absurd reaction reaches the ears of the people who think that the lousy imbecile is letting his rank get to his head. The people apologize in their truest, as the survivors of the battle come forth to thank Frau for her honest service. They've all decided to side with her because of her actions, shocking Valk as he thinks that this is some kind of sick joke. Takumi is best pleased with such a sudden turn of events, while Frau is in disbelief that she's the first to earn the right to enter the dungeon. Valk blurts out his anger, while Gandalf advises him to give up his childish rant, as the results have already been decided. Valk is also seized by the knights at once, and he is totally surprised why. In an absolutely sudden twist, it is revealed that the man who stood before them all as Gandalf is actually the king himself. Gandalf tells Takumi that he's going to honor the promise of sharing a drink, while Valk just realizes the weight of what he's done by attempting to take down Gandalf before. Bozo got caught red-handed, genius plot twist. The king tells him that stories of his misdeeds will be spread throughout the land, and even though he has strength, his character, and heart lack in his service. Gandalf, as the king, tells him that the true hero is capable of bearing a righteous heart and is the spirit of those who become stronger for the sake of others instead of themselves. Gandalf notes Frau's unfaltering resolve and her unwavering convictions, while she wonders how someone like her could ever become a hero. Takumi is pleasantly surprised by how they ended up choosing her. Funnily enough, because she didn't attack anyone. And despite being an F-ranked hero who had nasty burns and is no longer hated by her country, she's the hero and has everything to be proud of. Takumi's words move Frau's heart as tears flow out of her eyes. The man reminds her that she's been on the right path all this time. The party shares a toast to victory with the king, becoming all drunk on the night as they enjoy this fine evening. The king has chosen to hold a banquet at Takumi's place instead of the castle, as he thinks it's too uptight. They share a fantastic time together, with Frau being the limelight of the party. Not only that, Frau has also reclaimed her B-class status because of the king's influence. The people apologize to her for their misdeeds, and seem to have a negative impression of Valk instead. We're explained the difference between a demon's abnormal strength compared to a human's, as they possess a regenerating body that's hard as steel with an inexhaustible mana. Not only that, their forces are said to be comprised of 6 generals, leading the 18 divisions, with the Demon King at the very top. They have intelligence capable enough to comprehend human languages and boast the ability to fly. Even a division commander poses a giant threat to the S-rankers. Takumi intervenes in their conversation and is rather proud of Frau for getting the job done. A muscular warrior grabs Frau's head and claims that a healer of her caliber shouldn't be considered face material, as she's just a helpless woman at the end of the day. His inappropriate advances are stopped by a beautiful elf as she headbutts him, making him faint instantly. The elf claims that she won't tolerate any insults towards Frau, and is revealed to be Eltico, the party member that Frau saved. Eltico has switched sides and decided to accompany the two of them on their journeys. Takumi is just having fun with his beer party, while Frau reflects how her fate has changed the moment when she met Takumi. She wants to show him gratitude and smiles, except Takumi turns out to be popular with the women, which annoys Frau as she chugs down a gallon of beer, only to end herself with a deteriorated drunkard state. Frau apparently knocked herself out, while Ultiko cares for her the best she can. The day finally arrived to confront the dungeon, with King Gandalf bidding farewell to the warriors. Frau thinks that the dungeon, Imbo, is a world filled to the brim with unknown layers. There's also the issue of the monsters abnormally being summoned. She doesn't know if they appeared by chance or if it has anything to do with Takumi's reincarnation. The party then enters the dungeon, initiating their journey to hunt precious treasures. We dive into Ultiko's tragic past, as she was an elf girl with negligible mana, a girl who was born with the cursed omen of black hair, and a heretic to her clan. Ultiko was treated horribly as an orphan, with no knowledge of where she came from, spending her entire childhood not knowing where she came from. And when Valk talked her down for being a waste of space in her final moments, Ultiko was reminded of her inferiority. She thought that her life was always the same until Frau came to rescue her, exhausting the last of her strength. Ultiko received true devotion from another person for the first time, and that was when she decided that this human was one that she had to protect at all costs. Back to the present, the guards wonder how far the party has gone, as it's been 3 days since they entered the dungeon. He recalls how the face priority period ends in 5 days, which means after that, all the other adventurers can access the dungeon of their own accord. He thinks of quitting the knighting business to make treasures for himself, except he is shocked when the dungeon explodes as Takumi and his gang makes an exciting return. Ultiko is a little injured while Takumi and the others casually talk about how they defeated the monster crab on the bottom floor. The knight is shocked to inform the king of the party's return, and Gandalf, too, is just baffled by their abilities, as they've acquired plenty of things and know everything about the dungeon. Not only that, they've acquired a mythical SS-grade magic stone known as the Transition Crystal, allowing the user to travel to places instantly. Takumi has also discovered another mythical grade stone, known as the Spatial Storehouse, which makes up for an infinite storage system. Takumi claims to have found many stones that he wants to inspect at his workshop, leaving Gandalf completely lost for words. I'd be lost for words too, if this pipsqueak cleared 600 floors in 3 days. Gandalf faints in sheer shock while his knights beg for Takumi to take them to their party. Suddenly, Takumi senses a looming threat as a mysterious creature instantly kills one of the knights. This bizarre structure literally made the man's body impossible to even heal, with Frau wincing at the fact that he was already dead. The monster then reveals its demon state and shows that it's capable of human speech. That thing straight up looks like nightmare fuel. Gandalf is left stunned to reveal that this fiend is, in fact, one of the demon clans, and it has come to obtain the stones on behalf of its master. The fiend reveals itself to be a division commander known as Death Bludgeon Madora, and while others are shocked, Takumi has been welcoming this opportunity for quite a while as he prepares to face a strong demon. Madora begins its wrathful attack thinking light of the humans, except they're all safe thanks to Takumi's transition crystal, teleporting them away from the area. Madora is surprised that they possess one of the stones, while the knights and magic corps prepare to attack the fiend. Madora laughs at the weak attack and thinks that it's just incapable of even hurting a demon. Madora strikes fear in the hearts of the knights as they begin retreating, but it's of no use as it deploys a lethal attack, ripping apart the human's flesh in an instant. Aw heck no, he's too strong. The demon is overjoyed to take care of the pathetic humans. Takumi on the other hand tries to attack the demon from a blind spot, and redirects its attention to its real opponents. Frau prepares her gun, while Takumi thinks that they are up against a real formidable opponent this time. Even though the king's knights have waning confidence in a healer's skill set, Takumi casually lights up his cigarette only to state that Frau is a legend in the making, who will also become the first female hero in history. Madora hears their rant and thinks that the one who thought of defeating the Demon King, while also being the hope of humanity, can't be some little girl. He laughs to his amusement and tells them that he'll be destroying the entire country as punishment for their loss. Gandalf is at a loss for words while his knights think that it's all over now. Takumi helps Frau with her weapon and also unlocks her an alternative mode, massively increasing its firepower. Takumi has been making changes to her gun, and while the usual mode specializes in long-range penetration, this one is for close-range attacks as a whole. Frau trusts in Takumi's art and knows that his weapon packs a punch, which is surprising as she is the same girl who once had zero confidence in herself to be a hero. Takumi recalls how she always forgets to mention the most important part, how she chose to believe in his weapon when they barely knew each other and gunned down the eyeless monster. Takumi thinks that this kind of spirit is what is required to become a hero, as that is something he is sure of. The fiend prepares its assault, hoping to destroy Takumi and Frau's advances, but Frau channels all of her mana into a potent strike, unleashing a deadly strike that actually obliterates half of Madora's body. Of course, not even his regeneration is effective in this case, as it fades to ashes. Takumi is proud of this outcome, while Frau stuns herself with her accomplishments. The one-armed hero Frau etched a permanent record in history by defeating an A-rank demon while being a B-class adventurer, secured a W so good they be setting world records. At the front lines, the Imperial Heavy Unicorn Knights and the magic squads take appropriate positions to ensure their victory against the demon forces of Azuma. They take charge only to find themselves vastly swallowed by the opposing forces, wondering when the Soluan squad or the Order Generals will arrive. That's exactly when 2 stars of glimmering aura descend to make their entrance, as they're the legendary SS-class Soluan and Imperial members comprising of Heathland and Leviathan Aklina. Heathland had fallen head over heels for the girl, as the 2 warriors raised the morale of their forces. They go over the rumor that has been going around as of late in the Red Lands of Rirasso. It's only a rumor, however, as the event reaches the ears of the demon general, Lord Telzero, who is one of the 6 great demonic forces. Telzero receives word about Madora's extermination at the hands of the humans, as he wonders if it were the Soluan members or the Imperial members capable of performing such a feat. On the other hand, the prodigious and youngest Soluan member, known as Inosis, is surprised to hear that a B-ranked warrior could pull off such a feat. Beastman Prince Alina's recalls how there is another rumor, one that speaks of a weapon capable of obliterating a demon in a single strike. He thinks that between the 2 rumors, the one about the gun is more important, without a doubt. Gandalf questions what Takumi intends to do beyond this point, who explains that he wants to hit the goal of claiming hero status by heading right to the Demon King's doorstep at Azuma. Gandalf reminds them that their journey to Azuma will be quite difficult, as even with their finest horses and carriage, it would take about 6 months at the shortest, or even double that for other reasons. Takumi thinks little of the horse and shows them something innovative. He reveals his new vehicle, which is a truck that is capable of covering the same journey in under 2 weeks. Gandalf is shocked by this man's abilities and tells him that the kingdom of Rirasso will be covering his back, should he ever require it. Takumi tells Ultiko and Frau to hop in, as they're about to make their way through this journey. Damn, Truck-kun just joined the team to kick the Demon King's butt. Takumi crafts a new and improved prosthetic arm for Frau, who feels the difference immediately. Apparently, Takumi used another Embo magic stone to boost her abilities. Takumi's worst fears come to light when he finally runs out of his cigarettes, as he realizes that there is nothing that he can replace them with, and so this man's smoking spree has come to an end. They continue their wonderful travels to Azuma, leaving Frau shocked by how much distance they have covered in such a short time. Takumi himself is annoyed to chew on leather as a replacement for his smokes, and tells Frau that they might need to stop refilling petrol. Frau advises them to stop near Bonas, which is considered the world's biggest city of commerce, and home to the former great sage of the Soluan faction, Lord Fyasov. Frau thinks that they should meet him for some added assistance in their journey. Takumi backs up the idea, and thinks that they should pay them a visit. However, Takumi catches a glimpse of a beast girl in a terrible state. He comes over to observe her, as she's barely breathing in the middle of nowhere. The girl begins to frantically apologize, while Takumi gives her some bread to eat to calm her down. The battered girl immediately eats her bread and also finds herself totally recovered, thanks to Frau's magic. Takumi then cuts the chain using his angle grinder, freeing the beast girl from her problems. Takumi's gentle, yet considerate approach makes her comfortable enough to weep as she's suffered great misery. Frau begins to explain that this girl bears the mark of a slave, and among other things, in the lower trenches of society, many children are bought and sold, which is also why they suffer all kinds of hard labor and are treated like objects. That's when the beast girl's owners arrive, who have been tailing her for a while after her escape. These wretched men are interested in taking her back, while also giving her punishment for her escape. The girl is terrified of what's about to happen, but Takumi shields her, reminding her that there is nothing to worry about, while uplifting her at the same time for enduring so much pain. What's worse is that Ultiko is in a fiery state and gets absolutely pissed, to the point that she starts beating the muscle out of these men with her potent strikes. She easily deflects their blows with her modified globes, thanks to Takumi's essential upgrades. Frau asks for information regarding Ultiko's equipment, and so Takumi explains that he made something specifically for human encounters. The gear can focus using weak mana signals and temporarily aids her in physical strength. Takumi states that Ultiko is stupidly strong even without the weapon, and because her output is small, the gear's effect is bound to fade soon, yet she still possesses the potential to rank up to S with this weapon. Takumi thinks it's perfect for dealing with the humans, as Ultiko squashes them shut. That's when Mr. Vito Rai surprises the knights with his appearance, as he believes that this fight is about to be really tough for him. Vito Rai is actually a former Holy Imperial Knight of Emperizer, famed as the strongest. Vito Rai corrects his subordinate, reminding him that he's just a fugitive right now with a country after him. Frau is concerned, as they're up against a former Holy Knight, as these knights are absurdly strong in their own right, and their tactical knowledge is currently humanity's biggest advantage against the demonic forces. Vito Rai warms up for his battle to face them and immediately charges in to attack Frau. Ultiko slams him away with a powerful kick, while Vito recognizes her strength. He wonders what he should do. Vito has a keen sense for risk and reward, with his finest ability to be to run away without hesitation, while at a disadvantage. He prioritizes his own safety and assesses the abilities of his opponents. The man decides to use his precious stone, which is an analysis stone capable of assessing the powers of others. However, the second he taps into its power, he realizes that Ultiko is just a monstrous ranker who is nearly a foot into the realm of S-class, with the potential to grow ahead. He thinks that he should at least get a huge bonus from this, and decides to analyze Frau's abilities next. What he finds is shocking, as Vito can't even process the violent energy coming from her. It's as if he's about to face an army and realizes that Frau is too strong compared to even Ultiko. When Vito turns to analyze Takumi, he literally feels his body suffocating while strangled in a sea home to a monster unlike any other. Bro saw the devil right there and said no. He breaks free from his analysis stone only to be submerged in chaos and fear. The reason he fled from the front lines is because he analyzed a demon general from up close, and yet he's getting the exact same vibes from a boy who's currently offering him toilet paper. Vito basically does a Goku and gives up, knowing that he's got no chance against 3 demonic opponents, as even the elf chick would be trouble enough for him. Takumi, on the other hand, is pretty annoyed by Vito's initial attack and thinks that it's stupid to act like an ally after that. Vito explains that he was outnumbered to begin with, and he never thought that the fight would go his way. Takumi cuts through his excuses, forcing Vito to try a different approach as he offers to give them specialized information free of charge, something that also concerns the Beast Girl. Takumi is reminded of his pet dog in his previous life and decides to ask the girl for an opinion. Vito apologizes while feeling embarrassed, except his apology is so bad that Takumi thinks that he deserves death penalty. Vito begs for his life while Frau insists that they hear out what he has to say regarding the information that he has. Takumi thinks that they should hear it out at last, and finally Vito shares that Ultiko is literally cursed. He informs them that elves are supposed to be proficient with magic, except this one has no mana in abundance, which is because of a mana eater, an ancient advanced control magic that uses a curse to consume mana from its source. He's actually surprised that Ultiko can use any mana at all, as that's a miracle. Frau grows nervous and doesn't know what they should do in this situation, while Vito tells them that the only way to release control magic is through the death of the caster or the release spell of an equal level. However, with the Mana Eater control magic, it can only be removed if the vessel that it is cursing is destroyed. Otherwise, it will stay even after the death of the caster itself. Frau is devastated to hear Vito's words. He believes that the owner of the cursed vessel is most likely one of his own organization's top brasses, someone who is the ultimate bringer of ill fate, a man called the Dark Magician Maledic. Hahaha, they really pulled a Yu-Gi-Oh on this one. The organization known as the Zafvat is a slave trading crime syndicate that's got quite a number on its hands. Vito confirms that they're located in Bonus. Takumi is surprised that this man has no problem spilling information about his own organization, but Vito counters that it's nothing to him, as he values his own life before anything else. Vito believes that he's shared enough information and tries to head back, but Takumi wants him to take them along because they have business in Bonus to take care of and need an expert to lead them right to their hideout. Vito is shocked, wondering if Takumi heard anything at all. He doesn't know what he's plotting because if his organization catches him as a link to this incident, Vito will be the one to pay. Takumi tells Ultiko and the Beast Girl that he'll be breaking that curse soon. Takumi is quite annoyed and vows never to forgive the organization, for child abduction as their practice. He tells Vito to get inside their truck, which has issues at first, but he realizes just how powerful Ultiko and Takumi are as he politely gets inside. Vito shares how he's the one being abducted right now. Damn right you are. Entering Bonas, the second great city of Goldoro, they're amazed by the city's trade. Takumi and his company make way and have fun with Gandalf's money as he lends them a decent amount of cash to live comfortably with. Vito tries his best not to stick out, but immediately catches the attention of his subordinates as they celebrate how he's brought new slaves today. Obviously, Takumi takes care of the punk instantly and tells the remaining scrubs that he's going to bring that organization to a pile of rubble very soon. Takumi recalls a story he heard from an aged woman who once lost her daughter to a case of abduction. Not only that, her husband was also in critical condition, so they could do nothing about the matter. At the time, Takumi thought that he was a craftsman with no abilities who had grown old to be incapable of doing something for them, even though he wished he could. Back to the present, Takumi chows down on the delicious meal of the city and mentions the Grand Sage, something that puts Vito on edge as he just so happens to be their natural enemy in his organization. Vito wants to escape immediately before things get worse, but Takumi insists that he stay and has a lot of fun ruining his composure. After that, Takumi bids goodnight to Frau and Ultiko and grabs Vito for a walk. Vito wonders where they are going, and Takumi suggests that their hideout is a fun place to go. Vito is shocked that Takumi intends to go inside alone, and Takumi assures him that this is his personal plan, something he doesn't want to involve the others with. Vito has lost his mind and decides to dash away, when suddenly Takumi teleports right in front of him using the magic stone. Vito is stopped dead in his tracks when he sees the heavy pipe wrench decimating the ground with its weight, while Takumi tells him that he will be accompanying him on this trip no matter what. Vito contemplates how a kid like him could get these abnormal physical strength buffs, and ponders the identity of this demonic brat. He has no choice but to comply as he leads them to their hideout. Vito explains that their crime syndicate has been able to remain undiscovered so far, especially because they harbor deep within Bonas's dungeon. The center of their hideout is on the 15th floor, to be exact. Vito accesses the direct route for the executives, while Takumi wonders why he's had a sudden change of heart and is easily giving way. Vito laughs away in an excuse and reflects how he could actually stand a chance at defeating some monsters by using Takumi as his tool. He also believes that Takumi might become his key to becoming the headmaster of the organization. They arrive at the final gate leading to the depths of the hideout, except Vito soon discovers that his mana access key has been revoked as the organization has already suspected his betrayal. Vito thinks that they've got nothing to do now, as no one is capable of opening the door without a magic key. Takumi measures the door's width and decides to use his cutting torch tool for the job. He tells Vito that this is his special ability called Modern Magic, which is basically normal life stuff that is overpowered on this isekai planet. Vito ignites his tool, which is specifically designed to cut through steel, as he applies pressurized heat to burn the area before disconnecting it with his tool. Vito is shocked at what's taking place right before his eyes, as the door tears apart with Takumi's tool. The once thought impenetrable door has fallen victim to a boy that he's just met. Vito is at a loss for words when Takumi continues to rant about words he's never even heard before. Takumi tells him to stop yapping, as he's nothing more than an ordinary craftsman. Bro told this loser to keep his mouth shut. In the middle of the dark night, Frau wakes up to find that Takumi's still not around to bother her. She gazes over at the window to find Pip running away to find Takumi. Frau thinks that finding him in a big city will be an impossible task, but then she realizes that Pip, the beast girl, has a good nose. She decides to tag along, as going alone would be dangerous for Pip, and Ultiko accompanies them too. Back to Takumi's duo with Vito. He finds the organization members partying out. Vito states that this is the place where they stand for orders. Before taking care of the organization members, they come face to face with a monster known as the Ham Mashal, which keeps an eye on them in the back alleys. As he's explaining the monster, Takumi has already gone ahead and taken care of the beast and insists that they should keep moving. Takumi finds himself in the slave room, which is the detention camp for their captive women and children. Takumi peers into the souls of the miserable slaves, while Vito thinks they reek of bad smell. Takumi immediately jumps forth to break their cells using his saber saw drill, freeing the slaves one by one, leaving Vito surprised for the 100th time. Frau and Pip make their way to find Takumi when they stumble across a beast man who wonders what they're doing at this hour. Frau tells him that they're looking for someone, and so he shows them the way. He's the clerk of a hidden store. He takes them around the area while Takumi and Vito are done with freeing all of the captives. Vito thinks that their real challenge, the dark magician Maledic, awaits them. Vito tells Takumi to follow the path, as it will take him to his target. Takumi leaves him with a pile of gold as thanks for his help so far and tells Vito that he'll take care of what's left. Vito is intrigued by how Takumi is keeping his word to go alone, and asks if Takumi is even sure of his victory. Takumi tells him that he doesn't have a sure conviction, but he also doesn't want to face the sting of regret if he turns his tail from here and runs away and loses his spine. Basically, his words stung Vito, who has always ran away from this point. Vito leaves him with a piece of advice, telling Takumi that he should look out for someone just as crazy as the dark magician. There is a man named Pronto, who is a beast man and goes by the name Bischa. This man single-handedly annihilated the Knight squad that was sent to subjugate him. He's an S-ranker in his own right with monstrous abilities, and he happens to be taking Frau and Pip to their lair right this moment. Maledic, on the other hand, is anxiously awaiting Takumi's arrival. Vito leads the slaves out of the place and tells them that they're all free to go wherever they like, while he's going right back in to become the head of the organization. He thinks it's necessary to observe the outcome of the battle himself. However, Vito is actually conflicted by his unusual thinking process, as he knows that having such aspirations is pointless. Vito still remembers Takumi's words and believes that Takumi's idealism will lead to his demise in the end. Takumi comes to greet the main door that leads to Maledic's lair, and thinks that it can only be opened with mana. The door opens by itself, as he realizes that Maledic has already been waiting for him. The man known as the Dark Magician properly introduces himself as the pinnacle of strength, and the head of the organization, Zafvat. Takumi confirms that he's the rat who's been running such a spoiled and disgusting business, and wants to kick his butt. Maledic questions his identity as he knows that Takumi is capable of using transition and cutting through impenetrable gates using his technical abilities. He's definitely caught the magician's interest, while Takumi wonders how he even knows about all of that. Maledic informs him of the magic stones he's scattered all across the town and his dungeon, which means he gets to keep an eye on absolutely anything and everything. He initially planned to only keep his sights on Vito, except now his interests lie elsewhere. Takumi is shocked that Ultico, Pip, and Frau are all headed this way. Maledic tells him that even though the cursed elf escaped, it's all the better that she came back to him. Maledic tells him that he's the one responsible for the mana-eating curse. Ultico is a miracle success story that was born completely by chance. Pronto, on the other hand, brings them to their shady location, a location filled with the skulls of the dead. Pronto reveals his true self, especially when he brings them to his brutal room. He thinks they're far too stupid to trust a complete stranger. Pronto also reveals how he's already taken care of Pip's friend by reducing him to a clean, skeletal mess. Ultico begins her immediate assault, except Pronto is capable of blocking her strike and whams her with a powerful punch. Ultico suffers an injury and is still capable of putting up a fight. Maledic tells Takumi that his friends are in a tight spot and no matter how they think about it, an A-ranker doesn't stand a chance against an S-ranker. Takumi questions the magician, wondering if Ultico was stronger before he deployed the mana-eating curse. Maledic confirms that she indeed was their goal, to create the strongest soldier by making use of the elf's power. Takumi muses the idea to burst the cursed vessel open in order to return Ultico to her original strength, while Maledic wonders if he knows the method for releasing the mana-eating curse. He wonders if Takumi is even capable of such a feat, because before he gets to destroy the curse, he has to defeat something else. Maledic holds an item box in his hand, stating how no one in history has been able to destroy the unbreakable magic stone. Takumi recalls how this metal is actually something he knows from his previous life. The magical metal is something that bears roughly a 30th thickness to that of paper, and is considered difficult to handle with machinery alone, requiring a human touch. Takumi believes that it is impossible for an object of this caliber to be created in this world, and instead, the item has received craftsmanship from his previous world, except the big question remains of how it even got here.